And we are live.
Hello, welcome to our Facebook Live. I'm Samantha Brown. This is Kevin O'Leary.
Hi.
And we are the producers of the Emmy Award-winning travel series, Places to Love, which is on your local PBS station. And each week on our Facebook Live, we love to show an episode from our previous season and share it with you, our community. And we will share with you also sort of behind the scenes look at the creative process that went into the scenes, how we chose the people, how it all comes together, things that went right, things that did not go right.
Have a cocktail.
Have a cocktail, absolutely. And and we love it. We love being here with you and just sharing a more intimate look at a travel series because a lot goes into it. So much of it that you don't see. I am really admiring my husband's shirt right now, and I was in a cozy sweater, and I saw that he was getting all Floridaed up.
That's right.
Floored up.
Flora did.
Flora did?
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful shirt. I love the colors. It's like a little bit of plum in there.
There's seashells and seahorses, I think.
Seahorses.
Yeah.
That's right. Beautiful. I love it. And so I put on a more festive shirt as well because I was like, well, I can't be in a sweater. And Kevin being like it's not necessary. It's just a festive shirt.
Yeah.
I was about to say Hawaiian shirt, but that's not the state we're talking about today.
Florida wine.
Florida.
Yeah.
Florida. Anywho, who do we have joining us, Kevin? Are people coming our way? We do this every week on 9 p.m. at 9 p.m. on Tuesday.
And it looks like our comments are working tonight. We got Facebook in the house. We got YouTube in the house. And for all of our kind of core Facebook fans, we do have a new YouTube channel that you can watch this maybe on your smart TV. That's kind of fun. You can sit and watch it in the living room versus on your laptop or on your phone. That's YouTube at Real Samantha Brown, all one big word. And we have not only these live broadcasts, all of our previous live broadcasts are archived there. So if you want to recreate this one night, you can watch us kind of live because it's recorded live.
Yeah.
It's just not live.
And then you can see the comments come in too as it is live, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
and then we just posted a few months ago our whole first season on YouTube for the whole episodes.
Really?
Yeah,
it's all up there.
Yep, the whole first season. So you can watch that, and it's on my list that I've checked it twice to start doing season 2. I just haven't got a chance to do that yet.
And it's a busy time. It's a really busy time for everyone, right? There's so much layered into the holidays, no matter what your religion and what you celebrate. It just feels like we're all really busy. Like, for instance, I was so busy today that I didn't even see your post, so I don't even know what the drink is. It's behind me right now, but I don't know what we're drinking tonight. So what are we drinking tonight?
It's called a Lolita.
Oh,
and it's from there's a really great distillery in St Augustine called the St Augustine Distillery, and they had this cocktail recipe on theirs, but it's actually not their recipe. It's from the bar next door called the Ice Plant.
Oh, okay.
And so it's their recipe that they kind of used, and so I used it as well, and it's nice. It's I wanted kind of something summery because the other option was doing like a boozy eggnog, but I always put so much booze in the eggnog it breaks and it curdles and it's gross. So you can't just do it. I don't have a light touch when it comes to taking nice eggnog off the shelf and then putting booze in it.
Sounds like a real problem. Sounds like something that's quite fixable too, but you just can't.
Well, that's why we don't have that cocktail.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
It was fixable because I decided not to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So we are just 1 week away from a big holiday, and it's a big travel time as well. Anyone in the house right now? Anyone traveling? Anyone getting on a plane? Tell us where you're going. Would love to hear what your plans are, especially if you are going somewhere special. If you saw my Instagram post or Facebook post last week, this past Sunday, it was all about my big tip for when you land in an airport, and that is to plan your return. So whenever I land in an airport of the destination that I'm in, and it's especially if it's a new airport, I don't just sort of like beeline it to baggage claim or to the exit. I kind of take a look at my surroundings, really paying attention to what is in that terminal that I've arrived at, because it's most likely going to be the terminal you arrive back to, you return to when you go home. So you can really set the stage for understanding what the airport is like. Is it crazy? Do they have good eating choices? Because someone actually said, you eat? Who eats at an airport? I'm like, I eat at an airport. Absolutely. I also showed the Tampa airport, which I feel like is the best airport in the United States. In the world, it's Changi. followed by
Singapore.
Singapore, then Schiphol in Amsterdam, and then it's Tampa. It is that up there as just being a phenomenal airport. It's better than Amsterdam in that it has an incredible flow of people and traffic, which Amsterdam still has some challenges. But I love going, and then the Columbia restaurant is there, and I eat there every single time. I look forward to it. I'm hungry, and it's just a great restaurant. So it's a really nice airport, so that's easy to do. But yeah, plan your return. Just kind of judge how long is it going to take you to get out of the terminal, because some of these airports now are massive, right? It could take you a good half an hour just to move through the space, and you then can, just sort of count backwards when you're returning. Okay, it's actually going to take me an hour, so I should get to the airport at this amount of time. And so just like you actually know a lot more than you think you do when you return. So I don't know if anyone saw that tip, how you feel about that. But is anyone?
We got a lot of people in on the watch the broadcast from Florida. We got Nancy Hamilton from Naples, Florida.
Excellent.
We got MD Walton from Tallahassee.
Oh, all right.
We got Lori from St. John's, Florida, which has got to be right near there because it's St. John's County, right?
Beautiful, right? Yes.
I'd say that Carol says this looks like a Florida Days shirt. I never heard that term before. I like that. Florida Days.
Florida Days. Yeah. Florida Days. Yeah.
And our great friend Colleen Casey saying both shirts look pretty amazing. They make the show. Thanks, Colleen.
Mine's kind of sparkly. I would say mine's more on the festive holiday side, but we try.
Mine's Florida festive.
Yeah.
Okay, so
is Jeff here? I don't have my English, but I just want to know if Jeff's here.
Yeah, he's here. He's got an issue with grapefruit juice. Oh. Lolita has grapefruit juice. He has to stay away. I guess he's not a big grapefruit juice fan.
Well, I can understand.
It's only got half an ounce. It's not a lot.
It's pretty acidic, though. I mean, the grapefruit juice is wow. Yeah. Yeah,
it is. It is pretty acidic.
I remember back in the 70s where my dad would have the healthy breakfast was to slice grapefruit and just load it with sugar on top, and then let the sugar seep in, and then eat the sections. That was healthy breakfast.
I thought you were gonna say that you had the concentrated grapefruit juice in that little cylinder thing from the freezer that you put water in. Yeah, no. Those are good times. Yeah, we lived in Miami and still did that.
No, really, even though you had fresh grapefruit. That's great.
Yeah. Wow. So so this week we're obviously talking about St. Augustine, and boy, you filmed there. That was our the second trip I think of the season, so that would have been April-ish, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, end of April.
So end of April last year.
Beautiful weather, lovely time.
Yeah. But before we get into the show, just some other kind of housekeeping. Last week we announced the date of our first river cruise for 2024, but we do have a date now for 2025, and that's June 15th. And that's the lower Danube. So that'll go from Budapest down to, I think Bucharest is where you fly home from, I think. But it's all through that part of the Danube, and it's certainly it's less touristy. It's we can't wait to do that. I hope I'm invited to that one. We'll see. I can't. I don't make any assumptions about anything anymore.
It's all who you know in this world now.
And we're working on discounts and codes on that one, but just to remind everybody, for the upper Danube, which is next year in July 28th, if you called 800-626-0126, you get a 20% discount coming your way. That's just awesome. Got to make sure you use the SB 2024 code. That's the important detail there. Again, that's 800-626-0126, and the code is SB 2024. Do you want to talk a little bit about these before we start, or do you want to bring that in after?
No, I say we bring our special guest in now.
All right. Well, so usually when we have special guests, we bring them in after we go through the whole episode. Mm-hmm. But this guest, so special, we couldn't do that. No. We couldn't let her sit on the sidelines and just kind of stew while we're saying all these clever things about the show that she had everything to do with. And then at the end, we give her 2 minutes and we say, thanks, good night. No, she had to be here through the whole thing. Yes. So I want to bring in our great friend and series producer and director, Sylvia Kaminer.
Hey, Sylvia!
Hey, guys. I'm the one in the turtleneck, and I live in Florida. But, it's cold here.
How cold is it?
I was out with a little holiday cheer earlier, and I think it was like 50, but it was like a cold 50 in Florida. That's cold.
Yeah, I would think so. Do you own one sweater or two, or is that it?
I have not worn a sweater out in Florida in years.
Wow.
And tonight, I don't know what possessed me. I went in looking for a sweatshirt, and I said, "Oh, I forgot I had this sweater."
Well, you're originally from New York City, right? You grew up in New York City, so you must have a nice sweater collection from there. Because
I think I got rid of the sweaters, but I have the coats.
So. Okay, all right, that's good. That's good.
I'm gonna make our cocktail. Why don't you guys chat a bit about what Sylvia does as director? And
Absolutely. So Sylvia and I have been together for I never know the math. It's like 17 years, right? So we started. Working with
it's
one
longer. I know it because I had just left New York in 2001 before 9/11, and we were together for 9/11, and that was 2001.
We were at Mohawk Mountain House together.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
I
it'll
totally
be
blocked that out.
years.
Wow.
I can understand why.
yeah, exactly. That's incredible. It'll be how many? So it's 21 years?
23. It'll be 23.
That's crazy.
We were kids.
That's how I can't remember it. It's just like it's like an age. Like I don't really know my age. At some point, you're like, we've been together for a long time. Sylvia and I have worked together my entire career. She's had a longer career than me. Being and you've always been a director, right? How did you get into directing? A lot of because not too many females are in the directing field, and you've been in it for over 25 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, I started as a producer.
Oh, I can't hear you, Sylvia.
You can't hear me? No?
Did I lose it?
Is it man?
Oh, hello? No. Let me put my headphones.
Sylvia, why don't you close and go back in again? Not sure what happened there.
Can you hear me now?
No, she's there.
Oh, okay. Maybe I went.
Okay.
Maybe it's our headphones.
Well, I put my headphones in, so maybe that's good.
We need chat our audio.
Oh, we do chat. Oh, but now I have an echo.
Yeah, I think that was me. I think walking out of the room disconnected our headphones.
Oh, all right.
So Sylvia was there the whole time. Actually, we weren't.
Okay, all
right. That's fun.
Well, there we go. Don't leave the room. Sorry, I didn't. You might have started the story, but how you got into what you did or what you do now?
Yeah, so I started as a producer. Well, I started as a production assistant on some big films. Working with like Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro and Al Pacino as, the person running around helping with extras and background actors.
That's amazing. I did not know that.
I worked on Die Hard.
Which is a Christmas movie.
No, but like the third or fourth one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I started producing independent films. And then I met, when we started on our first show was Great Hotels.
Right.
And so I met one of the team members from that. And they were like, what are you doing in Florida? And I just kind of got into it from then and kind of never, sorry, my cats just made an appearance.
Which one is that?
That was Ziggy.
Ziggy, okay.
Yeah. And so then really once I kind of started, it's easier somehow for women, well, almost for anyone to make an appearance in the directing chair in nonfiction.
Okay.
Somehow that's, so that was kind of the easier entryway in. And then, I've just loved working on travel is my other passion in life.
And
as it is
Sylvia, our great, also long-term friend, David Dean, just had an interesting comment. You're talking about nonfiction. He said to check out Sylvia's thriller called Follow Her, which is on Showtime at Paramount Plus.
It's an excellent movie. It's very suspenseful, and it's a big it's a thriller, but it's like a twist, right? Yeah, and
Thank
you. So you moved
cool.
from just into the fiction kind of film genre.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
What do you like more, working with me?
Oh, of course. No, I mean it's a more enjoyable fiction, and huge cruise is stressful. You have so many people. There's so much waiting. With us, if we want to make a change, or you have an idea, and oh, or something's not working, or we have a better idea, we can just go. You can
That's a
just
good point.
move.
That's a
You
good
know,
point.
yeah. And if Brian, our DP, has an idea, we can actually put that into effect. Whereas on a big film, you'd have to relight, and actors are, it becomes much more complicated. So
I've
you can,
also like
yeah.
the only time I've ever worked on like a big union set, I was amazed by the protocol that exists between all the hierarchy. Like
Oh,
I was not allowed to talk directly to the director. That was the stage manager. I had to tell the everyone's an intermediary. You can't have, and I was just like, this is crazy to me. I can't, because I'm just so
yeah.
used to, hey Sylvia, and you're like, hey, and then
Right.
Brian, our DP, we say, hey, what do we do? And we
Right.
kind of move, and all of a sudden there's just all these roles that people have, and they don't touch this and you don't do
Yeah.
that, and us, it's like, where do you need us to put the light? Over here? Okay. And you
Right.
don't do that on a union set, that's for sure.
No.
You know your place.
And I love
Yeah.
when I'm fortunate enough to be on set with you guys, the look of shock when the talent grabs the heaviest case she can find to start lifting
Right.
stuff into the van.
I love lifting
Yeah.
things. I've always have. I've always loved lifting. I don't know what it is. Put me to work. I'm a good worker. Yeah. But so
Yeah,
when
that
we
wouldn't
were
happen.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, I'd get in trouble too.
Yes.
So Sylvia was also the producer of St. Augustine. So she flew down to St. Augustine. How do you know how far in advance you
I think it
pre-pro
was,
the show?
I want to say it was about 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay, 5 or 6
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of this is always a big question. Is just like what happens, when you're there to shoot for 4 days. How do you know where to go? And I always tell people
Right.
we have a pre-pro, which is really nice as to be
Just pre-production.
pre-production, right?
Yeah.
Which is really nice because a lot of times with my work on the Travel Channel, Sylvia, we never had that, right? You
It
never
was
had
all
that as
by,
a producer. Yep.
it was
Show
all
up.
virtual.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
It was all virtual pre-production.
So,
Yeah.
so Sylvia would have gone down to St. Augustine. What did you say? 5 weeks before,
Yeah. About
around
5 weeks.
and she meets with a lot of people, and then we kind of get on a phone to discuss, and then she calls and says, hey,
Yeah.
we're gonna you're gonna be on our show. I hope that's okay. So but yeah, so not only did Sylvia direct this episode, she also was instrumental in lining up what we saw, who we met, and then what we went with the episode. But while we were there, Sylvia and I had the just absolute benefit of seeing some really special people in our lives, the people who brought us together. This is Jerry Smith, Cindy Smith. Jerry is the tall man behind me. Cindy is the blonde woman behind Sylvia, and Joan McCord. Jerry Smith basically found me. They are the people of Pine Ridge Film and Television. They discovered me, and that's how Sylvia and I met through Great
Yep.
Hotels. And then right there is David Dean. David Dean, our amazing editor, joined us as well because he lives in Florida. So we had a fantastic. I hadn't seen Jerry and Cindy and Joan in probably 10 years. No,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe a
Stands.
little less. Yes.
Yeah.
So many great memories, and we had a wonderful time just reconnecting.
That was a great meal. That was fun. Yeah.
And Sylvia, actually, did you? Well, so we started working with David Dean with Pine Ridge as well. We're all
Yeah.
together because of Pine Ridge. We
Yeah.
owe just
Yeah.
everything to them, bringing us together. And then when we kind of disbanded,
We say Pine Ridge was the production company that did
I'm sorry.
that.
Yes. So Pine Ridge Film and Television was the production company. Is the production company. But when I worked with them, we did Great Vacation Homes, Great Hotels, Girl Meets Hawaii, Passport to Europe, Passport to Latin America. All those shows were Pine Ridge Film and Television, and just a fantastic production company. How long did you work with them?
I came in 2001. I think my
Okay.
first episode was in San Francisco, and Jerry came out, and I think he only stayed for the first 2 days, and then he took off and
Nice.
said,
Nice.
you got it. And then, yeah, he was amazing. I learned so much from him. Yeah.
He
And
loves to-
Joan.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're great people. Really great people. David Dean, okay. I mean, you're all right, David.
And this nice shot of you and Jerry.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah.
And you know, I've had a lot of great conversations with people around. You know, a lot of people I don't even know that always say, "Oh, I'm the person that kind of discovered Samantha Brown."
They do? Who
Yeah.
says that?
No, I've had that conversation with people I've never heard of.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
they worked
Oh,
for some
that's so
capacity
funny.
at the Travel Channel that
Yeah.
you know for 1 month and you know try to credit for it. But
He's
Jerry.
the one. Yeah, he's the one.
Jerry was the guy that
he was
believed
the one
in
that
you.
believed in me. Yeah.
And you know, it was under his kind of leadership that all those shows kind of
Yeah.
got repeated and got picked up again and again and again. I mean, there's an art to that.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
And
yeah.
Jerry has the energy of a 17-year-old and
Amazing.
the passion. I've never met anyone like him in terms of how he just has a gusto for life. He goes for it. It's as if it's his, he has all this experience, but he has that passion of someone who just wants to know. And so that early 20s excitement of being new in your career, he still has it. Like 60 years into his career, he really is incredible. So it was great. It was a great night, wasn't it, Sylvia?
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah, those are the nights you live for in a sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
celebrate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, should we get the
Yeah, let's get it
episode
going.
going here? All right.
Let's do it.
So Sylvia, I don't know if you've seen one of these. Basically, we'll stop at the end of every scene and just kind of do a little chat. Anything you want to add? Like was
Awesome.
the talent being difficult? Sure.
All right, let's
Never.
get going.
I'm in a city where wandering is encouraged and time meant to be savored. A historic powerhouse of a destination where local events not only shaped it, but an entire country. It's a city of firsts, and also what's next, with a food scene that is immersive and thoroughly enjoyed. And speaking of joy, with protected wetlands, estuaries, and miles of beautiful beaches to explore, there's a lot to sink your teeth into.
How did you find that? I looked on the ground.
I'm in St. Augustine, Florida. I'm Samantha Brown, and I've traveled all over this world.
So while our credits are rolling here, we talk about our sponsors, and certainly Amo Waterways is a sponsor, and Sylvia's been with us on a few Amo Waterways cruises, right?
Yes. What a gorgeous, I don't cruise much, but boy, I would do an Amo Waterways every year. The river cruise is like unlike anything I've ever done. It's not like a big ship.
Yeah, I just remember the Moselle. So we were shooting, and that's the gorge. But remember the Moselle? That was that tiny little river off the Rhine that we spent 2 days in, and the whole crew would go up at night and just have a nice drink and just watch the cliffs of it's not Brunner Veltliner. What is it? It's
Riesling, I think.
Riesling.
Yeah.
The Riesling.
Yeah.
It's just like perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And
We-
the
we-
food, all of it.
Yeah, it was really nice. We rarely, as a team, get to relax with one another, right? It's usually pretty run and gun and go for it. But it was really wonderful.
We had a couple days off on that trip.
Well,
you
exactly.
Yeah.
That was the
Rare.
Moselle. Yeah.
Rare
Right,
days off.
right. That was it. Yeah. Yeah. And watching the castles go by. We were filming that, of course.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
ready for that one, right? And that was like, okay,
Yeah.
where's the castles? Okay, go. Oh, on this side, that side. All right, now they're over here. Because we had that whole we had to plan it, right? Because you can't just go from one side of even though we're going pretty slow, but Brian wanted a bit of a heads up for that one as well.
Yeah, and then last year we did that Holland America cruise. It was fun.
That's right.
Alaska. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been to Alaska. That was a dream.
Oh,
yeah.
the places I take you to.
I'm beginning my trip in St. Augustine by enjoying what people love it for, the water. And I'm getting out there with a unique tour that is the only one of its kind in the city.
A lot of people coming to Florida, especially here, want to go out for a lovely boat ride. How are you not that? Like, what don't you do?
So you won't find us doing booze cruises or playing loud music, that sort of thing. So
Getting too close to the dolphins, feeding them.
Right. The feeding and the approaching is totally illegal, but hard to enforce. I'm Zach McKenna. I'm the owner and founder of St Augustine Eco Tours.
And so what we're about to enjoy is something that you're trying to protect because everyone wants to be here experiencing this, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The part that brings people here when it gets overwhelmed with even recreational users, you know, you can love it to death. So we're here as the ambassadors to tell the story.
And where are we headed to now?
I'm taking you to a protected island known as Julia's Island.
This used to be called Bird Island, but in honor of Zach's advocacy, the biologist named it after his daughter, Julia.
And we have 3 really special species of bird that nest there. The American oyster catcher, which is amazing because they can open a closed oyster with their bill. The real special one, because they're heavily threatened right now, is the least tern.
The least tern.
Because it's the smallest, the least. And then we have another real special bird called the Wilson's plover. Pair bonding and eating all at once.
Beautiful bird right there.
Great blue heron, that's a success story. They were almost extinct. Harvested for feathers in the late 1800s to make hats.
That's right, feathers for her cap, right?
Nailed it.
Wow.
Zach's trips serve a double benefit. 1, you're on a boat enjoying the environment, and 2, your support goes to further protect that environment.
Well, here comes the Spanish fort on our right.
Are they gonna fire on us?
I hope not.
I just, you know, it's tourists with cannons. I just don't trust it.
It is the oldest.
Yeah, that.
What is that noise? That's weird. Yeah, so great sailing scene there. It's over. That was the end of the scene, wasn't it?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So obviously we wanted to do something on the water because we're in Florida, and always with Florida, we really want to go with the integrity of that state when it comes to its wildlife and its bird population and the water and everything people love about Florida, and everything that would disappear quickly if there weren't those people like Zach just to really to protect that and to be a part of enjoying it. We knew right away, Sylvia, that we wanted a conservation effort on the water, right?
Definitely. Yeah. You know, we knew, like you said, we're in Florida. We have to get on the water, but how do we make it different? And I think in the last few years, conservation is it's wonderful how important it's gotten to so many travelers. So it was not hard to say, let's find someone that's really in line with that. And Zach, you know, he's just a wealth of knowledge, but he's so passionate about what he does and saving the water for his kids and future generations. And but you know, anytime we get out on the water, it's a little challenging because you don't know what the weather is going to be. And you know, I think we were lucky this day. We didn't have to reschedule, but often, you know, we have to have a backup day in the schedule. You always, if you're shooting on the water, you have at least 1 or 2 backup days because you're not going to do it if it's raining. I feel like it was misting a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Big time
You know,
choppy.
so
That's right. It was misting, and the
I think it was. Yeah.
yeah. But you're right. So when we're shooting that, there's that, and then there's the chase boat. So you have to have the what do you call? Are we the hero boat? Is that the technical?
You're the
term?
hero boat. Yeah.
You're the hero boat. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's always the other boat with the whole crew on it, and then we'll do like a side by side, and then we'll shift some people from one boat to the other, which can always be fun, tricky,
Right.
dangerous.
When we were in Victoria this year, it was actually illegal to do that.
To go boat to boat like that?
To not do it, you know, in open water, transfer people from one boat to another. And he was saying that if we went to the U.S. waters, it would be allowed. If it was, of course, assuming it's safe, just make that assumption. But just legally in Canada, you can't do that.
Makes sense because it really isn't safe. We've done some things where you're like, oh, and with cameras. So, But you're probably wondering, like, well, how do you get that great sound? And always I hope everyone appreciates how hard it is to get a clear audio on a moving boat. That's Chad, our sound man's brilliance. Perfectly timed, David, because you've got a great picture that says, where's Chad? How do you get? Because the further Chad is away, like say on a chase boat, he's going to be too far away to get great sound. It's going to get pops. It's going to get a lot of interruptions.
So
but Chad
David didn't know
finds...
we had this picture queued up of Thomas helping Chad get in the bowels of the boat so that he could be crouching down and getting better audio.
And we're like, are you sure you have enough air? Are you sure you have enough air? But yeah, it's always like, where's Chad going to go? Sometimes he's in the back room. Sometimes he's under a table. If I'm in a car,
in the
he's
continental United States.
But yeah, so that's where Chad is, and because of that, we've got great audio.
Yeah.
Thank God he doesn't get seasick.
That's so true.
Well,
Because he's in like those places.
Because we were in the British Virgin Islands years ago, and one of our shooters almost got sick because we're in open boats, and then when you're looking through the eyepiece, it changes your perspective while you're moving, and your ear just goes nuts, and you get really, really nauseous. I remember seeing him like bent over. This is Z, like, oh boy, here we go. he kind of got out of it, but it was a touch and go there.
Ugh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It is one of only 2 fortifications in the entire world made out of coquina stone, and it's one of the only examples of Spanish colonial fortification style in North America. I'm Jill Leverett. I'm a U.S. Park Ranger at Castillo de San Marcos National Monument. I've been a ranger for almost 15 years now, and I actually started my career here as a volunteer when I was a student at Flagler College.
Tell you, Jill, it's not every day in America that you get to walk across a moat on a drawbridge.
Yep.
Right? I mean, this is a very rare thing here for our country.
Yes, that is one of the things that makes the Castillo unique, one of the reasons why it became a national monument, the Spanish history, the fact that it's almost a medieval style, more a Renaissance era style fort, very European style in the United States. Florida was a Spanish colony, and even though it did later become a British colony, it was not one of the 13 that became the original United States. 1702 is the first major attack on St. Augustine and the Castillo, not long after it's built. The English attacked from Charleston. And the entire population of St. Augustine, a little over 1,500 soldiers and civilians, packed up, moved inside the fort, and they were here for 51 days.
This is a part of American history that's really not taught, and that's why we're all here, is to really understand a different perspective of history. And one of the most fascinating for me is that people who were enslaved, if they escaped, if they got here, Spain would grant them freedom.
Yes, as early as the 1690s, the King of Spain had declared that if enslaved people in English colonies specifically made it to Spanish territory, as long as they became Catholic, swore loyalty to the King of Spain, and the men helped to defend their new home by, say, joining the troops or local militia, they could be free Spanish citizens, because they knew that if St. Augustine fell, if the Spanish were defeated and kicked out of Florida, they would be re-enslaved in English colonies.
So this fort goes back and forth between the Spanish and the British for some time, but then eventually it becomes a U.S. territory. All of Florida does. So does the purpose of the fort change at that point?
At first, the U.S. Army uses it a lot like the Spanish had as a military storage facility. But
That's not exciting.
Yeah. Well, a few times they also use it as a prison. So in 1837, the Army brought Osceola and about 200 other Seminole Indians here. They were held as POWs for about 2 months during the Second Seminole War. They were kept in some of the rooms down in the southwest corner of the fort. And then later in the 1870s, the Army brought about 74 prisoners from 5 different Plains nations here as punishment for their involvement in the various conflicts between their nations and the U.S. Army out west as the United States was expanding westward.
It's incredible. Everyone coming to St. Augustine in present day comes to this fort to absorb the history, and we have no idea the history lesson we're about to get, right?
And that's why this place is here. That's why it's a national monument.
If there's...
Yeah, again, I just, I think I went to the fort twice, and this was my 3rd time, and still didn't know all the history. And it's always about really finding those nuggets because there's a lot to be told there. So, our job is to really find those 3 beats that we think are just wows in terms of information and just go for them, because we don't have all day, and it's actually quite a extensive history. Like, I think we cut the story of that. When you talk about the British, when the British attacked, they rounded up the entire town and they lived there. Did we cut that?
We did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So
They lived
we
there
had
for like
to.
3 months. Yeah.
3 months, yeah. So the townspeople
Something like
lived
that.
there for 3
Yeah.
months, and so we just have to cut it at some point because there's so much to tell. And I thought the Plains Indians, that was fascinating that they brought them over because they were fighting with the U.S. Government there, and that terrible history. But there was just really fascinating. Sometimes you just look at it, and you're like, oh, that's a nice picture for your photo album. But there's always something more to know. Really great stuff.
Yeah. The 4, like you said, you've been there a couple times. I know. When I first came to Florida as a kid, my parents took me and we toured it. Maybe we even took a guide, but I had no idea. And I live in Florida for these 22 years, and I don't think most people that live here, they know, oh, it's the first city of America, and oh, it's a beautiful fort, but you have no idea. I mean, that's an amazing story. In the heart of the South, in the deepest part of the South, you could become free. When I heard that, I was blown away. And so
I always loved that the English were attacking from Charleston, and that just made me laugh because I'm, being from New Hampshire, the English came from England. Like they were there, they had they had not set up shop, right? So they came over, and then I thought that was interesting, and they were attacking from Charleston. Yeah. Huh, okay, part of history I don't.
That day when I was scouting, David Dean came down and joined me that day.
Aww,
so he was there. Yeah, he came because he lives about a half hour, 45 minutes from there. So we kind of looked around the fort together, and I knew the minute I heard that story, I was like, oh my gosh, I knew you'd go for it. That's one of the ones, when I'm scouting, you think, well, maybe, definitely. Yeah. So I had a feeling this was one of the definites.
Nice. Yeah. It was.
One building that really represents Florida becoming the vacation mecca that we all know it is this one right here.
Absolutely. And Henry Flagler would be very proud of that. This was the Hotel Ponce de Leon, the most luxurious resort in the world. It was also the most modern. Thomas Edison did the power plant with more than 4,000 electric lights. Louis Comfort Tiffany at the beginning of his stained glass making career. This was one of his first projects, and there are 79 Tiffany stained glass windows, the largest collection in the world in their original location.
So it's a National Historic Landmark, not only for what it is, but who came here to make it what it was.
Yes.
Guests would have checked into one of America's first luxury resorts here in this soaring rotunda. This was the Gilded Age, and 18 and 24 karat gold leaf was the preferred color. 4 original murals depict adventure, discovery, conquest, and civilization. And this exceptionally civilized room is the dining hall. One could only imagine the opulent feasts enjoyed at the hotel. But today...
What'd you get? Oh, pizza and a cookie. Nice.
It's Pizza Friday, and there is no dress code. In 1967, the hotel had its last season through a grand farewell party here and transitioned the luxury hotel into what is arguably the most beautifully appointed college in the United States.
If you go anywhere in Florida, especially along the coast, you really hear about Henry Flagler. He just literally, again, changed the dynamics of Florida, its economics. Why did he choose St. Augustine to be the first place that he really developed?
Because it was the first place. It's the oldest city in the United States. The South had been very much left out of railroad building. Transcontinental Railroad is already over linking California. So this was the last frontier, and that is what he joined with 10 other men to develop, was Florida.
Are you gonna eat your pizza? I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah, I think I might.
Pizza by...
She was great, and this was another. There's so much information. So how do we go about saying, okay, we're going to stick to this, to stick to that? Because when you when we were looking at it together, it's like, oh my gosh, all of it, because I've been going to Florida professionally for 25 years, and I've heard about Flagler all through that time. And just to understand, this is the beginning. This is, this really, the whole Florida economy of tourism really can be traced back to him and his decision to build this resort and that railroad down to Florida. So it was fascinating to me. It really is an origin story. And then, of course, you had the beauty. So did you find that there were any challenges because you did it, the pre-production, but then you also kind of show up and kind of map out a direction for us to go as a team.
Yeah. This actually, as far as the scenes I not anxious about, but the scene I thought would be one of the more challenging ones was actually this one, more than even the one on the water, just because there was so much to cover. And, you're always facing challenges of time and weather. And this day was the weather was not great. We were dodging a little bit of rain that day, if I remember correctly. And Leslie had so much information. And so I remember you and I talked about, sometimes if you give too much, people just get nothing because you're jamming too much. So it's always about honing it down to the most important. You're very good at that, of saying, okay, yeah, I see there's this much, but let's pick these 3 things. Yes. And so that was a challenge of this, is how do we get Flagler's story across and have it not just feel like a history lesson, where you're kind of understanding it. Yeah. And where do we feed the crew? Well, we all had pizza that day. The whole crew ate it.
That's so true. We all ate it. That's right. I always kept calling it the cafeteria, and Leslie would be like, it's not a cafeteria. Like, right. Yeah, but it's kind of a cafeteria. But,
it was cafeteria food.
It was definitely.
If only for the poshest resort in the world to.
It's unbelievable.
Cafeteria food.
And that was another part of the story we cut out. We talked about a little in the show where they understood that it was kind of the end of an era. This was a resort built during the Gilded Age, for goodness sakes.
Right.
And this is kind of the way that people traveled and stayed in resorts for months were now ending. But what they always knew was going to be a college. So it wasn't like it sat empty or was almost slated for destruction. Like, they knew, they threw this massive party. And it was actually a fundraiser, and that fundraiser raised money to start this college. So they always knew that this was going to segue into a college. Right. And I think it's a great story. It's not. Yeah, maybe we should have put that in the show. Sorry.
That the city of Miami wanted to name itself Flagler.
Really?
Yeah. That when they were incorporating, they were like a village or something like that. They approached him to be called Flagler, and he said no, he didn't want to be honored that way.
Oh, interesting.
So they went with the Native American, name without their Miami. But
nice. Okay. All right. Let's eat. Let's go somewhere fun to eat.
And we're starting the scene, but I just looked it up because I saw this headline that Llama Restaurant, Llama, just last week or 2 weeks ago was picked up in the top 100 restaurants by what was it called? Top Table something? One of those lists, that go around.
In America?
Open Table.
Oh, Open Table.
Open Table listed their top 100 restaurants.
Whoa.
And they made it, yeah.
All right, Marcel.
The slice in no way represents St. Augustine's food scene. In fact, this city's culinary offerings can be described as deliciously game-changing and historic. And that's just for one restaurant.
I am from Peru, and I started cooking when I was 8. By the age of 16, I told myself I needed to have a restaurant by the age of 27, and I did. I am Marcel Vizcarra, and I'm the chef and owner of Llama Restaurant.
Marcel's menu combines both love and nostalgia of his home. There's the traditional ceviche, inspired by the city of Lima, with fish, sweet potato, corn, and spicy peppers. But his favorite is the marinated beef hearts, served impressively, so you get to experience one of Marcel's favorite youthful memories.
I remember being a kid going partying and coming out of the club, and there's a lineup of ladies just cooking on straight charcoal, and the smoke hits your face, and it's just the whole thing. And we like to use our hands to eat this. We tell people, just let your hands get dirty, enjoy it.
So you, with opening up Llama, you really wanted to create something that people in St. Augustine, and I dare say Florida, and maybe the whole East Coast have never really experienced.
Yes, I wanted to bring something different. When I moved into St. Augustine, I saw there was a very limited menu in the city. And when I wanted to open the restaurant, there were a few people that discouraged me to do it.
They did. They discouraged you.
Yeah, they told me people will be like scared of it and like they won't come in. It's too adventurous. It's too out there.
I mean, these are beef hearts.
An octopus.
Okay. Yeah.
That octopus is a carpaccio featuring an olive aioli, an influence of the Italians who brought their native produce into Peru. Marcel trained at Le Cordon Bleu in Lima, but his biggest influence is his mom, who is part of his team in the kitchen.
She was a frustrated chef.
She was a frustrated chef.
Yeah,
okay.
she keeps trying to make the things that I have here better as well.
It's interesting. Are there any similarities you see between St. Augustine and Peru? Like, I'm thinking, okay, you have these places that obviously had their own native inhabitants. Then you had Spanish empires come, right? Then you had more Europeans come.
It's very similar. It does remind me of Peru. Indeed, downtown St. Augustine is very similar to Cusco with the cobblestones and the Spanish names and all the influence. It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful community.
I wish we're talking with Sylvia, who did an amazing job producing this episode, scouting it, putting it all together. I didn't go to this one, and this scene and the other food scene made me angry that I couldn't go to have that
Really
meal.
good food scenes. We had two phenomenal ones. He was lovely,
Oh my gosh,
just a lovely man, and really express. And it's hard to get Peruvian food, and he is absolutely trained, and he's a heavy hitter in the chef world, going to Cordon Bleu. When David Dean brought up a good point that basically what you're doing when I'm talking to Marcel and talking to our people is there are two cameras. There's Brian Miller and then usually another man named Josh White or Marcus. Sorry, Marco. Sorry.
Marco.
And so there's two shots and you have a monitor. So explain what that monitor looks like and what you're watching.
Sure. So it's the size of an iPad, and nowadays it's either the iPad or it's two iPhones. I like the iPhone configuration because then I can carry it and I don't have to swap between shots. So one iPhone is Brian's, what we call A camera, and the B camera is Josh or Marco. And usually one camera's, on Samantha and one is on our host, our guest, whoever Samantha's talking to. And Brian we've kind of created a way where the two cameramen, they shoot really complementary to each other, and they almost do it as though they're the only camera, so that there's a little bit of movement in it, and so that it's not just a kind of a straight on, a little bit boring headshot. Because Sam, your preference, you're always like, I don't care about me, make it wider, let me see the space. So we really try to do that, and that's what you like, and I think it's really what makes the scenes more interesting. So so we all have headsets, and normally it's a little hard. I was just gonna say, normally it can be a little hard for me to give them a lot of, because you'll hear me talking in the middle of the scene. But for instance, if there's a problem, I can maybe step away or try to give them a little guidance and maybe say, hey, you're both on the close-up.
And what you're pantomiming is you have a little microphone that you can actually hold up right to your mouth. That everyone's got a little earpiece with their walkie-talkie, but you can hit the button and say really quietly, Brian, can you take a step to the right? You're in Josh's shot.
You're in Josh's shot, exactly.
That kind of thing. So that's what that means, is that this taking this microphone and they're like, Brian, you're in the shot. Get out of the way.
Yeah, you do a very good job, and that is true. Like it would be much easier if we just had these very locked down shots, and it was just like my image and then their image, and we would just. But I hate that ping pongy. It's not natural. It doesn't flow. So kind of having two cameras moving, and really understanding how they dance to each other, dance with each other, that really adds to Sylvia's the complexity, because these are constantly moving shots.
Yeah, and then what we also like to do are those great wide shots, which again is something that I know you like, is just, again, show the space. We want to explore a new location and see that world. So we'll do a scene. The first time we do it, we're really more on the intimateness. You know, we want to create an intimate space and an intimate relationship between you and whoever you're talking with. And then we'll do pieces of it again where the two cameramen, or sometimes just Brian, they go and they get an artsy shot, a wide shot, and so that we can cut and show more of the space. So that's always kind of like figuring out and trying to remember what we think the highlights of a conversation, you know, because, you know, you never know exactly what's going to make it to the final show, but you have a sense when you're shooting it. Yep.
And we can never be too specific in that second take, because I might be different with my food. I might not be eating the same thing. And so the camera, both Brian and Josh have to be very creative in not even doing, we call them, they're non-sync wide.
Non-sync.
So you can't even see my mouth moving, because then we can tag it to something else. And so these are just sort of like the little, the shots that Sylvia makes sure we get everywhere, so that David then has a lot more to work off of.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I think it was the first.
Really, no, go ahead, Kevin. Oh, I was just saying, they're also in a sense, like you said, well, they're kind of like safeties, because, for instance, if there's a scene where there's a lot of conversation and you guys are maybe very animated and you're on top of each other a little bit, which happens in natural conversation like we just did. If you shoot these wides, we'll specifically say, make sure you get non-sync audio so that we can cut to anything, because we're not worrying about, oh, wait, it's not going to match what Sam is saying at that moment. That's always a problem for the editor. It only works for a cut if you're saying the exact same thing, holding the same fork of food. But if you're getting a wide shot where you're soft in focus and we're seeing a beautiful flower or the dish, you can cut in, you can get out of a moment in a scene and trim it.
I think one of the first times I was on set with you guys, this is kind of early for me at least, and Brian, our longtime director of photography, had a really pretty shot, but it was like there was a tree blocking Sam's face, and I literally was like tapping him on the shoulder, like, Brian, like, you can't see Sam's face, move over some, and he's like, go away, stop talking to me, I'm doing this on purpose. Because he wanted to, because because I didn't know. I didn't have the idea that you're purposely trying to get shots of the scene without seeing their mouth move, so you can put whatever audio you want. And it was like, I never forgot that. It was like, I get it now.
So just be over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Wearing my Florida shirt.
All right.
St. Augustine is a walking city with narrow roads that still reflect the city's original Spanish colonial plan. And just about everywhere you turn, you'll find firsts and oldists, like the Cathedral Basilica, home to the first Catholic parish in North America from 1565, and the Plaza de la Constitucion, the oldest public space in America. Sure, there are very busy touristed streets, but it's easy to slip away and discover a more quiet side of town.
You know, you'll be walking down a street past buildings, and you'll never know the history of some of these places. But when you do, the history you find out about is absolutely amazing. And that's what your photography and this exhibit is really about.
That's just David Dean magic right there. That is just, we love these transitions. He essentially, it was just like, you don't know one scene is leaving and one scene is coming in, and that transition of me walking into that photo, and I believe we knew we shot this scene that we're about to see before, so we knew we had the photo, so we knew we wanted to kind of recreate that, so all of that was planned. But then David Dean needs to make it work, and it just I love that transition. Love it.
Yeah.
Out.
Yes, and Lincolnville was the first community and first incorporated community for freed slaves. Fast forward into the 1960s, many of the civil rights protests and planning sessions started in Lincolnville. So much happened here. A lot of these protests greatly affected the passage of the Civil Rights Act. I'm Lenny Foster, fine art photographer, and I love taking pictures. From the very first roll of film I shot in 1991 until 2 days ago, the feeling is still the same.
Lenny was the first black artist to have an exhibition of work shown in the rotunda of the St. Johns County Administration Building. 43 photographs in a project called Where We Stand.
Looking at your photos, I just see 6 of the 43 right here, but all of them you've incorporated shoes. How are shoes used as a vehicle to tell your story?
Well, we know what happens when you can imagine yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more understanding, may even create a little bit more dialogue. These shoes represent Dr. King walking down Washington Avenue in front of St. Mary's Church with a bunch of young people on the way to protest at the plaza. This is the first image of the series. This is taken at the slave market in the center of town in the plaza, where enslaved people were sold starting in the 1700s. I originally had these slave shackles that my sister had brought back from West Africa, and I placed them on the bricks in the slave market, and I photographed them. I said, you know, actually what I need are feet. So I approached this one man and asked him if I could take a picture of his feet. He backed off a couple of steps. And then I told him what I was up to. So I took him to the plaza with the shackles, and I photographed what I think is a very powerful piece, because this is an area where some Africans first stood on this continent. And then that kind of started me on this journey where I thought, well, I want to tell more stories where we stood, where we walked here as a people. And so we go from that to the first settlement for freed Africans, Fort Mose, 3 miles outside of town. It was the destination point for many coming from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Fort Mose recently got a $1.2 million grant to rebuild the fort as it was back in the mid-1700s. I knew none of this before I got to St. Augustine.
What's really fascinating to me is if I look at all of your pictures, they're of everyday places, they're of everyday items, and places that, you know, I'm sure a lot of people here pass every single day. And what you do is make sure that this people understand that even everyday history has power.
And that is my hope with the exhibition, that people can come to both an awareness and understanding of what happened then and maybe what's happening now. And with the shoes, I think it's a wonderful vehicle for storytelling, because you can imagine yourself in these seats, or you can imagine yourself as a witness of what's going on here. It's easy, if you see an image, for you to step into that image.
How did you find Lenny? Do you remember?
Oh, yes, I absolutely do. So Christina Parish Stone, our local, our tourism people are so important. And Christina was a joy to work with. And she really got what we were doing. She understood you as a host and what you wanted to do and say with a show. And I remember talking to her about, this is, I think, our maybe the fourth Florida episode, and how I wanted this to stand on its own and really just be so different from all the others, and how we wanted such unique stories. And to me, this is the essence of the show, that scene. It's when you find a local person doing important work, and he's there. You know, you can find Lenny, you can talk to him, he'll be happy to talk to you, but nobody is going to stumble onto that exhibit, you know, without us really letting them know what's going on. They might not find it. So so Christina mentioned him, and I thought, well, it sounds very interesting. And as soon as I met him, I thought, oh, he's tremendous. We have to figure out how to have him in the show. He didn't have the exhibit set up yet, you know, but I heard about it, and they were describing what they thought it was going to be. So those 5 or 6 weeks leading up, I remember talking to Lenny and getting photos and then showing you the book. You know, he already had that book, and we knew what the photos would be. But yeah, to me, that just so is the show, that scene. And I love how we kind of come into it.
Yeah, I agree.
And David agrees. Our show at its absolute best.
Yeah, just in terms of the integrity of the people, and that is what we're known for. And again, just kind of like that same with the Castillo, this history of civil rights movement is so unknown.
Yeah.
So there's still so much to learn from and be surprised about, and even Lenny himself did not know. He lived in Taos, New Mexico for years, and then he came back to St. Augustine because of his parents, to take care of them and be there for him. So he's a really special guy. So he didn't know because he hadn't lived there, and he knew that if anywhere he wanted to live in St. Augustine because of the culture, because of the arts. Right. And he kind of stumbled upon the history, a big surprise to him. And that's why it was so great to talk to him. He comes from so many different perspectives that really hit home what it's like when you just... When all of a sudden you're made aware, right? You're never the same once you know that. Is there a cat bugging you?
No, I'm about to lose battery. I apologize.
Oh, okay, that's fine. All right, we'll play the next scene.
We'll keep going.
Okay.
The beaches of St. Augustine are absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, this is beautiful, guys.
It's a perfect day.
We've got everything from dunes to long stretches that go out 100 yards into the shallows with sandbars. We've got coquina beaches full of shark teeth and large shells to white sugar sand. You can't compare it. I'm Rob Taylor, the founder of Two Travel Dads, the original LGBTQ family travel blog. And I started it with my husband, Chris, back in 2014. And our goal with it is to share the travel that we have with our kids, with the world, and for other families like ours, or for those who might want to have a family like ours.
Okay, so I have never in my life found a shark tooth. And I actually reached out to your dad and said, I'd like to go to a beach where I can find shark teeth, because that's so cool to me. And you know the ways. Elliot, what do you look for when you're looking for shark teeth?
So
what should I do?
You should find something black or white, like this.
Yes.
That's Dad.
So, I mean, if this...
I just found a really good one.
Oh, look at that.
Whoa! Okay, now that's a tooth.
That's a sand tiger shark tooth.
Wow.
You know
These
the
are all still
type,
really cool.
the species of shark. Oh my gosh, I am so out of my element here.
Yeah,
Wait.
just to match it up. Yeah. No, so...
Can we stop right there?
This is a sand...
I'm done. Like the fourth time I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just did the worst thing as a mom. Like you just saw me like, oh, forget about you, and then it was an Elliot that's just sitting there, literally with a palm of shark teeth, going, well, I'm out of here, and then leaves. That was the best. That was the best. Anyway, they're an adorable family. Go on. I'm just like every time now I see them, I'm like, oh man.
Tiger.
Okay.
And you can tell because it goes long, and then it has little bumps on the edges of it.
That's really cool.
All right, because I want to try to find my own.
Or I can help you.
Yeah, you will?
Yes.
Thank you.
Follow me.
The lack of crowds and any development whatsoever may have you wondering where exactly in St. Augustine we are. It has a name, but good luck remembering it.
This beach is part of the Guantanamo Matanzas Natural Estuarine Research Reserve.
Bless you.
Can I say that again?
You married well, Chris. You married well. One thing I've always really appreciated about your travel perspective is that you really use travel as a tool to educate. There isn't an opportunity you don't waste on educating your children through.
When you find stuff, you have to learn about it.
Yeah. Well, that's what's really beautiful about following you on social media, is that it's all just sort of blissfully normal. But there are challenges, clearly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're still kids.
We face it sometimes, and that's something that it's becoming more and more rare that we come across either places or people that make us feel different or less than. And I love that.
For folks out there who don't see like a family with like kids and like two dads, or like others who have like two moms, like for us, you know, it's for people to see that it's normal, and we're not different than any other family, you know, other than the fact that the parents are two dads.
So Rob and Chris are good friends of mine. Over the pandemic, we just started to get to know each other through each other's social media, and I just loved what they did. So it was great when we were like, oh, we have to have them because they're based in St. Augustine, and they were lovely. But I just wanted to show you a quick picture because we met them beforehand, and Rob showed up with snacks. So he's like a parent through and through. He wanted to take care of us. He was already like, what do you need? I've got cookies, I've got this. So he's a good person to know. But I've always loved what they do. And then I think you met them as well, right? Or we just kind of went with it?
Yeah. No, I got to scout with Rob. And yeah, I know we were talking about, well, what should we do? And we just thought the shark teeth, looking for shark teeth would be fun. And the fact that we knew we'd find some, because they find some every time they go. And then we love the idea of bringing their 2 boys were just such great kids and, friendly and outgoing, and they did great on camera. And it was
and they knew about the camera. That's my kids wouldn't do that. My kids would be like, what do we do? You could see they'd become restless and stuff. But these are kids who have clearly been brought up like in front of social media, in front of a camera. Yeah. They're just so acclimated. So they're a great team, and I was so glad that we could put them on camera because everyone should know about them. They really give a different perspective,
definitely,
a really welcome perspective of travel. All right, let's bring it to the horses are headed to the barn.
Right behind these unassuming warehouse buildings is a weekly barbecue extravaganza called Urban Asado. It's a 3-hour event where guests have the chance to mingle, enjoy unique cocktails, and watch a rotating collective of local chefs show off their own grilled specialties. But the centerpiece is the giant bone-in ribeye steak called a tomahawk, which Urban Asado's owner Nick Herrera is preparing according to techniques from his native Argentina.
It's interesting to me because we are in Florida, which is a part of the, Southern America, and, the South has its own form of barbecue. This is very different from that.
Yeah, specifically asado means barbecue, and it's both like the act of barbecuing and it's the event of barbecuing. But we primarily do everything with wood. So what we're doing right now, this beautiful wall of just awesome.
This is like Christmas right here.
Yeah,
these are decorations and ornaments. They're so beautiful.
It really is like Christmas year round when we do this, but it's not just for for show. What we're actually doing is tempering the tomahawks. We want to bring the temperature basically similar throughout. So that's the heart of an asado, is you're not rushing it. Something like this can't be rushed. It's a process.
How long do the tomahawks steaks have to sort of smoke like this in the fish before you bring them over to the grill?
We do it. It's about 4 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So what happens? It's a process.
This is a life.
Yeah.
This particular week, one of the chefs was Marcel, making pork belly sliders. Meanwhile, I lent a hand to head chef Matt Brown, making the house chimichurri sauce, which really does taste different when you're not using a food processor.
You've been a part of Urban Asado from the beginning, right? How have you enjoyed seeing it just sort of blossom and really become a part of St. Augustine and its local culture?
Yeah, it's been an amazing evolution. I mean, I think I did the first event with Nick Carrera about 7 years ago at a cooking demonstration at a farm. And I don't think we could have ever imagined that it would have gotten to this point. But, really wanted this to be sort of half theater, half food. So this is, these are Argentinian red shrimp. Then we top that with the salsa criolla.
And that's the sausage?
So this is our seafood sausage.
Oh, I see what that is. It's a cuttlefish.
Yeah, exactly. That's about 70% lobster, a little bit of ground shrimp in there, sherry, spices, chili peppers.
I honestly thought I was just coming here to get grilled fish.
Yeah.
By the time the main courses arrive, everyone's gotten the chance to get to know each other a little better, whether they're total strangers or newfound friends.
Oh, who's getting the fish?
Does this have the chimichurri that you made?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
it is
excellent.
a chimichurri. Oh my gosh.
We heard about Urban Asado as it's this event you have to do. And the fact that it's actually like on the river marina, it's this other side of St. Augustine. It's the fishing side. It's not the tourism boats. It's the actual like working boats.
Yes, this was a historic district for shrimping for both African Americans and other folks. That's what people that wouldn't get hired or couldn't get hired got on boats because they could. They bought their own boats, and so shrimping has been going on for 100 years.
Yeah, and still is. It seems like those boats still look hard working.
They still go out.
Yeah.
This is St. Augustine, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's straight to that one.
Exactly that.
Yeah. This is my first visit here, but it won't be my last.
St. Augustine is a great place to visit because there's a little bit of everything and there's something for everyone. Whether you're really into history, or you're a fisherman, or you want to go on a boat tour, a nature tour, whether you're looking for great restaurants or are looking for a place to go to college.
There's more culture in St. Augustine than I could have ever imagined. I discovered a history that I will explore for years.
And you just never know what you're going to find wandering through the historic areas of downtown.
You've got this natural environment that is unique and amazing, and then you've got some of the oldest European history in the country within a mile of each other. So these are the things that make St. Augustine great.
And I love that it's right by the beach.
When a city inspires you to wander past history that is more than meets the eye, to meet people who live and share their passions, that is when we share a love of travel. And that's why St. Augustine, Florida is a place to love.
Yay.
For more information about this and other episodes,
So the
destination
it's
guides,
interesting, Sylvie. I don't know if you know, but the Urban Asado, because that was basically a pop-up, right? So it was during the COVID, they kind of came together, and then it became more of a weekend thing, which is what we were shooting. That fact that you kind of had there was seatings. Like you would, like almost a theater, you would pay a ticket for a ticket and you'd be seated. Now they have a full-on restaurant. So I don't know if you know that, but it's called Asado Life. Everyone watching right now. So now it's permanent. It's more menu inspired. Everything is grilled just like you see, but it's like you can sit down, have a drink, have what you want. But so it's just so great how that all came to be, and now it's a more permanent part of St. Augustine. So it was like a dream but a lot. So as a director, you are directing everything from the kitchen staff and the chefs working the grills to, okay, now we're going to go over to Samantha, Rob, Lenny, and Chris and show them eating, and then now we've got to get the musician. The musician is separately shot from the rest of us so we can get the clear sound. So there was a lot of moving parts, wouldn't you say? Or was that a fairly easy scene to shoot?
No, that was definitely a challenging one. It's, a scene like that is all about the schedule, and you kind of know that we're there for 3 hours, and this is when they're smoking the meat and fish. So, we're going to have this little window, and then Marcel's going to be doing this. And so it's like a little dance. Everyone's shooting because you want to get the food coming out and the prep, and then suddenly it's like, okay guys, right now, remember, now we're heading to shoot with Sam helping to turn the steaks, and so you have to be on it not to miss a moment, because it's food. They're not going to ruin the food for us to get the shot, whereas sometimes if it's just before they're open, way less pressure. But here they had people, it was a sold out event. And, and we knew we wanted to get Matt, the chef there, we wanted to include him, and we wanted him to teach you, but that had to fit into this little window of time. And then it's not like we could wait to shoot the music after everything, because it would have been too dark and too late. And so we had to have a little window, so it was really about the timing. And then Chad had to run around and put mics, take this mic off and put it on that one. And
true. That's right. Because he has 4. He can run 4 at one time, but
I think so. Right. So Matt, and then it was nice. We often try to do something like this when we really feel like we've had every show you have your great, people that are in the scenes, but when you can have them come back and do a celebration like this, it's really nice.
That's true. We actually do, in a way, try to do that in every episode without it looking contrived or like, oh, look, everyone got together, because that's really not reasonable. But here, I think when we told like Lenny and Rob, like, hey, would you like yes, of course we want to go to this. Yes, we could go to, you'll be my dates. Yeah, I'm buying.
Right.
But everyone was, and Lenny literally has my favorite line of the entire season, where he kind of takes the wheel and says, here, this is my first time here, but it won't be my last. I just love how he delivers that. I just love it was such an easy breeziness, and so that was a great scene where everything comes together, but they take a lot of work, because if, for those of you watching, like, I see everyone sort of descend upon Sylvia, even the chefs, like, okay, what are we doing now? Okay, well, we got that. And then, of course, our team is like, Sylvia, where do you want us to be shooting? And then I mean, so she is literally conducting, managing expectations, and has to think on her own feet of, okay, what's next, as people are saying, hey, what's next? So I've seen you in those points, and she is smooth. Oh, nothing rattles Sylvia. And then if anything goes wrong, you're like, oh, all right.
Right.
We try.
Then, right. And everyone is so quick to come together. You're great at just, well, we're going to go to this now.
Here we go.
You'll make it work. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the small group. Yeah.
That's the small group.
We're
And
like
that's,
a family.
Exactly. We all know, like, listen, no matter what, it's going to work out fine.
I think the thing for me, you always know when Sylvia produces a show or does all the scouting work, because you always find music.
Oh,
always.
She's very good. Yeah.
Like I try and I kind of give up half the time. Like, it's just not worth it. And you always find that person, and that added to the scene, 100%.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's a challenge, because it would have been easier. I remember at times I think, oh, the music, but and I also try to end my episodes at a place that we can enjoy a little after.
So true.
There's usually a little bit of crew drinking and eating at the end of it.
That is true. I have noticed that. Yes, because we all did. They invited us to sit down and eat, which is phenomenal. I mean, they are so lovely. It was such a great group of people. They had weathered the storm of the pandemic, and they were so excited to be back. But what's interesting, Sylvia? I never, St. Augustine always gets this, has a great reputation as a destination, as this very, because it's the first city, it's the oldest city. But I love it because it really is different from any other part of Florida in that it's not, I wouldn't say you wouldn't bring your family there. Like, it really is this more adult, laid back. It's great for a romantic or great girlfriends, guy friends. Where Florida especially is just so known for being theme parks and this. Like, this I feel is this little jewel that is so lovely. You fly into Jacksonville, Florida, which is a really nice airport to fly into. You're avoiding Orlando and Miami, to crazy busy airports, and so there's just an ease of being there that I think I've been recommending it to everybody. It's so lovely. It's a great city. So much culture and Flagler. Like, everyone needs to do a Flagler tour. All right.
David mentioned that last January when this episode airs. Sylvia and David went to the premiere at the new Asada Life.
We did.
Life for Life.
Oh, and it's gorgeous.
That's right.
Yeah,
and it's right on the water too, right?
Stunning.
Nice.
Yeah, stunning.
Nice.
And Nick and Christy, his wife, just do such a beautiful job. And
nice.
yeah, I have such a great appreciation for St. Augustine. I never had.
Yeah,
and
I
for
agree.
Florida as a state because of St. Augustine.
Yeah.
Because it's has such a rich history that the surrounding states don't even have, so
it's true.
It's a fascinating place. And if you dig into Florida, there's a lot to discover. And we really don't off Florida.
So Jeff asked an interesting question. I think he means David is the editor. I think he's probably talking about Brian. How does Brian convey Sylvia's insight to the shots, Brian being our director of photography? Does she stand behind him and watch the shots first, or does he just do his thing? You mentioned you have those little screens, right?
Right. Yeah. So typically Brian and I will get out and we'll walk through the location together. Sometimes with Samantha. Sometimes she's off getting changed into her wardrobe and getting ready and going through her notes and figuring out what she wants to talk about. So Brian and I will know, this is the prettiest spot, or we don't want her walking this way because we don't want to be looking into the sun. So we'll have a little bit of a sense of the best kind of stage to have the scene happen. But Brian is such a natural. Brian makes it very easy. It's not, and Josh is also quite wonderful and makes things pretty easy also. He was brought up and learned in a similar arena as Brian. And so they just have a way of, knowing which is going to be the best. And they're very easy to, you might say, oh, hey guys, I thought maybe we'd come in on the Ronin, which is the camera that you can walk in on, and everyone just kind of works together and for our authentic voices, where we want to pick an emblematic background, we're all looking. And sometimes it could even be Thomas or Christina that might say,
Christina,
hey, did
yeah.
you guys see,
Yep.
see that?
Yep.
You know, Christina has a
Exactly.
great eye. She'll sometimes make a good suggestion.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a
and
total ensemble. And there are
really
no
is.
egos. There are no egos with our group, which is so lovely. It's like you can,
Yeah.
you know, I can ask Sylvia and Brian to do things. They can ask me to do. You know, it's how we work together, which always comes out. Because I think for me, Sylvia, and I know you agree, it's when we work with people, you know, we're the professional team, but we're going into a situation where people have other professions, and they don't
Right.
understand the workings of a crew. And so for us, it's so important to make people feel at ease. And that really begins with our attitude towards one another and how we treat one another.
Yeah.
I've definitely worked with people where it's tense, and you walk in with that energy, and it just it's not going to work. But people, every single one of us has a hand. From Sylvia and I, of course, because we have direct contact with the people. But even Brian's like, "Hey, how are you? My name's Brian," and you know, it's just all those things that I think is every one of us. But especially the rest of the team. So we're really lucky. Sylvia and I, we you know, it's like you pick, you know, you work with people, and you're like, you never want to let them go, because they make things not easy, but just enjoyable, right? It's not an easy job.
No.
It's enjoyable, right?
No.
And you guys are
but
such a
everybody
team,
really.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, Michael, you know, lent so much to this episode. Also, he came in, I think, a day before me on this to direct the first day. I think was Michael did a
Michael and
couple of
Jayon?
these scenes, and I was so clear about about what I wanted and a certain transition. So I think I drove him a little crazy, saying, "Make sure you get this shot, because I want to go from this to that." And he did a beautiful job. And
that's great.
And then, you know, Chad and Thomas, the whole team, you know,
So Jeff clarified that he actually was asking about David. So I think. So the question is exactly what he wrote: is how does David convey Sylvia's insight to the shots? And I would say that from what I understand, you make notes about the scenes and kind of what things you think you should be looking for. But you know, my takeaway when I first started kind of being on set with you guys is that at the end of the day, really, you guys all work for the editor. Your job is to get
Ain't that the truth?
No, you do. Your job, all of the work 100%. That's done, is to give the editor the tools,
the editor everything
to make a great show.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
And so, getting those great shots. But I think sometimes it's because I've had a few conversations. Honestly, every episode is little things, sometimes bigger than little. But with David, they're like, "Well, no, we wanted this to be that, to be this," and it's like, "Oh, that makes a lot more sense now."
Yeah.
That he didn't know that, or you know, that there was a thing we were trying to convey in the field that somehow didn't get to the editor, and once that did happen, it made more sense to him. You know.
Right. Yeah. The rundown sometimes what we've started doing the last few years is putting a little description of a transition. But someone like David, he doesn't need a lot.
No.
He's so good at like looking at a shot or a moment and saying, "Oh my gosh, this moment is so good. I'm going to build something around it." And then he'll find a really creative way to make that shine, this little moment that he found, you know. And he so gets it. You know, we're so lucky to have David, because he has such a magic for, you know, making the show sing.
Couldn't be said better from our friend David. You think this is easy? And another thing.
David, what are you doing watching? I thought you were working all night.
Yeah, exactly.
Get back to
we're doing okay.
Marie asked I about the cocktails. You know, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but we're drinking the Lolita tonight, which is a recipe from a bar. It does matter. I can spill it all over myself and be fine. It'd be great. It's perfect.
There you go.
But yeah, really nice drinkable cocktail. But kind of a summery, kind of makes you feel like you're in Florida. I think that's what we were going for today. Let's see what else we got. So I mean, we have Sylvia here. If anyone has any questions for her, just while we're waiting for any other questions to roll in for Sylvia, Lori was on your Amo Waterways cruise last December on the Christmas markets.
Hey. Aw,
She loved it. I think her thing got cut off there.
Yeah.
And while we're on the mentioning Amo Waterways, our good friend Brenda. Hey, Sylvia, Brenda says hi.
Oh, well, hello. You were on Amo Waterways, yes.
Yeah, she was on. I think she was on the Rhine and the Moselle with us.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Right.
Yeah. She's been there every time, actually. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, I'm jealous. That's a fun ship.
Let's see what else we got here. Speaking of cocktails, the cocktail has this thing called Saint Germaine, which is a elderflower liqueur in it. And Regina just went back on a cruise where maybe she had more than one of those. I don't know. I'm just guessing. It's a cruise. You have to assume. Yeah, they call it bartender's ketchup because it just makes everything taste good.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Saint Germaine?
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. I'm
I
gonna
have
start
not-
drinking that because I love ketchup. I put ketchup on my ketchup.
It makes anything taste good.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
All right, boy. Here's a fun comment, just for Sylvia's sake, that Andrea Wilson Walker is saying St. Augustine is one of her favorite places to visit, along with Charleston and Asheville, all of which were shows we made.
So yeah, absolutely. Hey, all right. We should just call it.
Three of my
we should do a
favorites.
show, a series like a marathon, and just call it the Andrea Wilson Walker
a
marathon. That'll just be all those three. Be the trifecta.
Yeah, we're obviously we're here safely in Brooklyn, but a lot of people are saying how beautiful St. Augustine is in the winter.
I
the
bet.
lights and everything I can imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
And that ice
it
house
is.
is where this cocktail is from. Actually, that's
Nice.
that's bartender there invented it.
Sylvia, what are you drinking?
Oh, nothing. I was at a place earlier and I had a really
I
good beer,
see.
but
Oh,
now
okay.
I'm doing seltzer. No,
Sylvia is a beer aficionado. She loves beer.
Craft beer.
Craft beer, exactly.
Craft
yeah,
beer.
it's not a Schlitz.
That's right.
She's not knocking back Schaefer.
No,
but
I'm
no,
not.
so
Where we are.
Wherever
Where's
we go.
the craft beer?
Where she finds the craft beer. So I can't
That's right.
tell you how often craft beer could be in our shows, but she has a lot of restraint in that
Yeah.
in that.
Well, you
area.
guys basically told me after the first like 2 or 3 years, every show I scouted, there was like craft beer. And you're like, I think we've got enough craft beer
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, we got another teammate in the house, Chad Finlay. Hey, Chad.
Finlay. Chad,
Hey,
Chad, did you see the picture of you?
Wait, hold on.
Oh, let's bring it up. Let's show Chad.
Chad, our
in the boat.
Yay,
sound
in
guy.
the boat. Yep.
That's Chad being lowered
Yep.
into the hull, the bowels of the ship.
Chad is wonderful. We've worked with Chad for the entire, Places to Love
From the
run.
pilot onward, yeah.
From the pilot onward.
Yeah.
And it's, again, all of this kind of comes together as if it's effortless. And Chad has one of the most difficult jobs in that he has got to mic people. And I have scratchy, like this, he would hate this because it makes so much noise, and then he has to figure out how to not make it noise.
What do you like, my Flora Day shirt?
I think it's soft,
Chad, what do you
Chad.
think? What do you think?
And so, but he's also just a kind person who, he has to go up to people and put his hands all over them, and no one's ever
grab it.
complained about that because he's so professional. But
Right.
I think sometimes I'm like, oh man, because Sylvia and I can be very fast. We just get into something and we forget that he has to get set up and he has a boom
Right.
and maybe there's been an action and yet and God love him, he hangs on, and then he's like, can we do that one more time? But the thing about Chad, I don't know if you know this, Sylvia, so many times in the editing process, David certainly knows, the cameras will have shut, but he keeps rolling. And so there's sound that I can use. And we've done that a lot with this season because it's a funny joke that I made, and maybe the person lightens up because they feel it. And Chad always keeps the sound rolling. Never for bad reasons. We would never, ruin anyone's reputation. Nothing like that. But it's amazing how people react when the cameras are down, and it's only for the next like 2 minutes or so. But he just kind of keeps it rolling. So I don't know if you ever knew that, but that's what we
didn't to that extent. I do see Chad anytime there's bells or a clock or the ocean. He's always getting those extra sounds.
Yeah,
because we know how much sound can add to a scene.
But poor Chad has to put up with Brian.
Oh God, I don't know.
He's got to drive in Brian's van.
Yeah. Exactly. He has to. Chad and Brian's our DP. They are peanut butter and jelly. They're always in a car. And
again,
Good way of saying it, yeah.
So Brian, our director of photography, and Chad, our sound engineer, have 2 major shows they work on: our Emmy award winning show, and a little show called Hoarders. And I love that.
Do you know when we were in Australia, we were with a guide, the guide through the Outback, who, when he found out that, because that's his favorite show, and I was like, oh, I'm like, Hoarders? And this was like off camera. I'm like, you like Hoarders? I'm like, well, those 2 are like the main like shooting crew and sound crew of Hoarders. He's like, what? I can't do an Australian accent.
Yeah,
there you go. But he was, what exactly? He's like, what? He's like, what are they doing on this stupid show? Kidding.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sylvia is amazing. She is she's just so instrumental in shaping. We have been like working together for 23 years, and so we know each other so well. She knows exactly what I have and haven't done, what I'm excited about. And then she represents the show when she meets people before we even start to shoot. And so they know right away the level of professionalism people are going to receive when they're with us. And then we arrive and we shoot. And then everyone asks her what's going on and what are the scenes. She has to have these scenes kind of mapped out in her mind. And Sylvia does everything from like the St. Augustine show you saw to road trips. That's a whole other ball of wax where we're just moving constantly, but we have to show us driving and getting from point A to B. Yeah. Like Sylvia does it all. And you're just a jewel to us. And we can't wait to start season 8. Is it season 8?
It's season 8.
Hard to believe.
Clear your schedule, Sylvia. March is coming.
I know, my gosh.
It's not showing up here yet, but Jeff asked a question: how many shows do you direct per season? And the answer is
this last season, all of them.
Yeah.
And I think basically all of them. This season 7, Michael directed a day or so on a few different episodes. Yeah.
But in general, I mean,
I am in general, I direct all the episodes. Yeah. And I am also extremely fortunate to have work with Sam, who makes it easy. I can't even imagine working with a host that didn't have your talent, your improbability and making people feel comfortable, because we're working with non-professional people in front of cameras. And then Kevin, anytime you've scouted and I'm meeting people, it's like you've become their best friend. So it's like, oh, Kevin, where's Kevin?
Where's Kevin? Like, sorry. He's true. He's the 5th Beatle. Everyone's like, well, where's Kevin? I'm like, well, I'm married to him. Someone's got to be home with the kids. It's so true. Yeah. Where's Kevin? Why isn't Kevin here?
Yeah. So you lay a good foundation with everyone's very excited and happy to,
Well, we can't wait for season 7 to start to air January, the first week of January.
First weekend of January.
January 7th, January 8th.
And our first episode is
Darwin,
Australia.
That's going to be our first one. That was amazing, right? And you stayed on, didn't you?
I stayed on for at least 2 more weeks. I fell in love with Australia.
Yeah.
I rented a vehicle. I drove. Sharon, our producer on those 2 episodes, stayed for the first 3 nights, and then I was off on my own for another 10.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, I flew to Brisbane and then drove all along the Sunshine and Gold Coast. I saw koalas and kangaroos and whales, and it was one of the best trips of my life.
You saw koalas in the wild?
Yes.
Were you like New Yorker, like, get out of the way, koala, coming through?
I took a local. So Jocelyn, her name, who we met in Peru, in Cusco. Cusco. She worked at the hotel.
When we worked together in Cusco?
Yes, we kept in touch. And she saw that I was in Australia. And so I said, oh, this is where I'm going to be for the next 3 days. And she lived a mile from where I was going to go hiking. And so I took her and showed her koalas in the wild for the first time ever. And she's lived in Australia for 5 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's another thing you guys need to know about Sylvia. Everyone still keeps in touch with her. So you have these moments where you're like, oh yeah, we're still friends. I'm like, I mean, Peru was 20 years ago?
20 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
And she runs a beer touring company. And I didn't have the time to go out on a craft beer tour with her because I wasn't there long enough. But
well, you already embed that into your trip. You kind of do that
every day's
yourself.
a craft beer tour with Sylvia.
That's awesome.
No, in Australia, koalas took priority.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, it's great seeing you. Happy holidays.
You guys
Merry
too.
Christmas.
Yes.
Are you staying in Florida for
To you
Christmas?
as well.
Your family's there, so
I am.
as well as you.
Yeah, I'll be here. And you guys and the kids are in the city or the country for the holidays?
We go to Kevin's parents' place.
Delaware, yeah.
Delaware, which we'll be doing our next Facebook Live from.
Speaking of which, I'll keep you on here, Sylvia, because we're wrapping things
this.
up. And next week, we kind of move some things around so that next week, we're taking it on the road.
We're taking it on the road.
We're taking it on the road because we're going to do a live broadcast from my parents' house.
From your parents'
in
house.
Delaware.
Oh
Wayne's
my
World,
God.
we're gonna be down
Wayne's
the
World
basement.
in the basement. Aerosmith's going to show up. Tom Hanks roadie. And
Mom, I'm trying to do a Facebook Live.
my dad actually got upgraded from 1 to gigabit internet just so that we have the kind of bandwidth to be able to support this.
That's funny.
Yeah, and because next week, since we're going to be with my parents next week, we thought what a great reason to do our Alaska episode.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Are they going to be on the show?
I think so. At least for some of it. I don't know about all of it, but yeah. So and maybe even the kids might show up because they don't have school.
Oh, you gotta have the kids.
Yeah, so we're gonna have the remote, which is gonna be a blast for me because I have to set the whole thing up. It's gonna be great. And then so we'll talk about Alaska. We'll talk about that whole experience of being on a cruise with my parents and the kids and everything. And I mean, it was such
awesome.
such a great time, such a great episode.
Great. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
And that'll be next Tuesday night here on Facebook and YouTube at 9 p.m. Eastern. And that's also Boxing Day, so we can celebrate Boxing Day.
All right.
All right.
Whatever that is.
Sylvia, it's so great
I
seeing
have no
you.
idea. Nice to see you guys. Take care. Happy New
And
Year.
Merry Christmas. Yeah. Happy New Year.
And
You guys too.
thanks, Sylvia. And thanks again, everyone. Have a very happy holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We'll see you on the other end.
Yeah, it's in less than a week. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe.
Oh my gosh.
Hard to believe.
Okay. Yep.
I'll say it one more time.
Hard to believe.
Hard to believe.
All right.
Less than a week. But we'll see you at 9 p.m. next Tuesday night to talk about Alaska and our amazing cruise in the Inside Passage.